does the whiskey come before or after?
Yeah, it's immediately. Immediately today.
Honestly, I think Thomas and I have both had a day.
Yeah,
Okay,
cool. It's been. I have. It's been overall. It's been a good week. But I got married last weekend. So I've
Congratulations,
thank you. I've officially been married for 8 days.
Congratulations.
So I'm not dead yet. So that's a good
Respect.
sign. But I got to, I'm still in a position, unlike Kevin over here, where if I'm not working, somebody has to be working.
Understood.
So I came back, and from Thursday afternoon until Sunday, I got all 40 of my hours in.
Let's go.
Yeah, so that was a fun.
So specifically, what day did you get married?
Last Sunday.
Last Sunday. Okay. So did you go honeymoon yet, or
No, not yet.
No?
So
Okay.
we are fingers crossed. Again, we were gone for a week, so that's about as long as really I think I can make everybody else work for me.
Understood.
And luckily it wasn't too bad. They only had to cover a few hours each, so it wasn't too crazy. I got a number of my hours in last week too.
Thank you, sir.
But being gone for a week, it's kind of, I understand it being a stressor for everybody else. So I think the plan right now is, having been gone for a week, then maybe in a month or so, we're kind of looking. There's a little window we have. Maybe a little bit more. Just kidding.
Okay.
We there looks like there might be a little bit of a window, maybe like early October, where we could maybe sneak away for a week again. So that's the goal. Fingers crossed, but you know how that goes.
Careful what you wish for, because
I know
I was going to say,
it's I don't have hours in the store anymore. But I think you guys saw me and Alyssa.
Oh yeah,
working away. Everybody at the pool.
You never have a day off.
And dude, when we got back here, we left as towards the end of the reception, and drove 3 hours to Vegas from, I don't know, I think we left at like 9 or 10 at night. So got to Vegas pretty late, slept for a few hours, got up, I think around 6, got on a plane, got back here to Oklahoma City. We stopped at home really quick, but we came pretty much straight to the warehouse. And Alyssa pulled transfers out as I watched Riley, and I got to start taking transfers to all the stores at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
oh man,
I didn't get done until midnight.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Yeah. Store at least closes at 9. So.
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, little cheers for you.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, appreciate you being on, man. Kev, you want to get started with some introductions?
Yeah. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today. I got the 2 Toms with me today.
Right. This is a Tom couch.
Yeah. For everybody listening, this is Tom
very good,
George with QB Impact and Impact Strength and Performance now, which is a state-of-the-art gym. It is a phenomenal facility that you guys have built. But you've been doing coaching athletes for a number of years now. Have coached, from my understanding, some pretty high-level athletes as well, and have put on some camps and worked with pretty big groups of people. And generally, you have had an impact, I believe, on a number of kids' lives. How long have you been coaching for?
Yeah, I kind of, I spent 25 years in the Navy. So I, probably my last 10 to 12 years of the Navy, my boys were at that stage where they were playing middle school ball, going into high school. And so I kind of double dipped. I was doing my military job, and then I would volunteer at the youth program, and eventually got to the point where they hired me at the high school. So I kind of was in a good position, because my growth in coaching early was because I had really successful football player boys in my house, and they'll watch this, I'm sure, and they'll remind me of it. But a lot of the success from how I built QB Impact was honestly having 2 Division I football players at home that kind of grew through the system. So, and also spending that time in Florida. I'm in the game now, so I get it, and it's really tough in Oklahoma. And the reason I say that is because I'll throw something at you real quick. Like 48% of Division I football players come from 3 states: Florida, California, and Texas.
Yeah. Really?
And Louisiana is at like 15%. So Oklahoma is like in the bottom 12% in the nation in Division I recruiting. So, so coming from Florida, and my son Nick George, my big boy, he
you know Nick well.
You know Nick, yeah, of course. His high school team I coached with played in a 5A state title in Florida. Well, I moved to Oklahoma, and then Brandon, the quarterback, I coach at Jones with him, and we win a state title in Oklahoma. But having said that, I've been able to coach in Florida at a very high level with a lot of talent, and then come to Oklahoma and win a state title and sit back and look at the differences in kids in different states, and building relationships that I built in Florida. I was able to bring that with me to Oklahoma. For example, most guys aren't able to get on the phone with SEC schools. Well, I have those relationships, and I built them when I was in Florida. So it's been pretty cool. It's been pretty unique. I have fun with Oklahoma fans when we talk football, and OU in Florida is UF, and Oklahoma State is FSU, and that's kind of how it's treated in Florida. It's kind of the same vibe. So it's been fun. I mean, I think at the end of the day, having my boys succeed and people seeing that kind of gave me a platform. And then being in the right place at the right time. I mean, I was coaching in Florida, and Urban Meyer came to recruit our guys, and he watched me coach one of our sessions and created dialogue with me, and I was able to talk to him and work some connections with him. So, I mean, I think good luck having great boys in athletics, and then being in the right place at the right time, of course, had a lot to do with it. I mean, I'm humbled by it, but sure. All those things kind of added up to the success. You know what I mean?
Well, not to ask anything like proprietary, I guess, but what do you think the difference is? Why is it that those 3 states get so many of the recruits? It's because obviously there's good athletes everywhere, but I mean, is it talent? Is it coaching? Is it
I think
seriousness that it's taken?
Well, I think, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but there's not good athletes everywhere.
Oh, sure.
So what I mean by that is, let's talk just straight common sense vehicle, right? If you're buying a car and you go to a car lot with 100 cars in it, and there's a car lot across the street with 1,000 cars in it, then which one are you going to go to, right? So for example, I'll throw some things at you, right? Like Penn State, okay? Penn State doesn't have a recruiter that comes to Oklahoma. Now, Penn State's in Pennsylvania. They don't have a recruiter. They don't pay a recruiter to travel to Oklahoma, but they pay $4 to go to Florida.
Wow.
So here's another thing I'll throw at you, and the numbers have changed over the years because the new coaching staff has increased that a bit. But Brent Venables, 56% of OU's roster came from Texas.
Yeah.
So my caveat back would be, well, if your own state schools are not recruiting Oklahoma kids, why in the world would out-of-state schools recruit Oklahoma kids, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's, people get, it's not popular, but Oklahoma hasn't recruited a quarterback since Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm a little bit biased. My son was the Oklahoma Gatorade Player of the Year, and OU didn't recruit him.
Wow.
Now Oklahoma State did, but OU didn't. So my point is, you're telling me you're the number 1 player in the state of Oklahoma, and the Oklahoma Sooners won't even pick up the phone and call you?
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm saying, but that same year they took 2 kids, quarterbacks from Texas. So my point is, if your state schools aren't going to recruit you, why in the world would Penn State or Michigan or any of those states?
Right.
Having said that, those guys send all their recruiters to those big states, right? And Oklahoma State does a better job at it. They do a pretty good job with developing Oklahoma kids. But at the end of the day, I just think there's more speed. There's more skill kids. The year I won the state title, I had 2 6'6" receivers. One went to, and here in Oklahoma, by the way, one went to Iowa State. The other kid had a Texas Tech offer. And my best athlete was my 5'10" slot receiver who had a bunch of D2 offers, right? And I remember him at the end of the season, I said, hey, you need to make a decision or you're going to lose those offers, right? And, of course, he was upset. I'm a D1 guy, this and that. So I met with him and his parents, and I looked him straight in the face, and I said, I'm going to tell you the truth, and you're going to be really mad at me. You're going to trust me. And I said, there's 100 guys like you in Florida in every zip code. Like, I hate to tell you that.
Right.
And then, in the big scheme of things, and if I'm ranting, let me know. But
at all. No.
Oklahoma has the big three: OU, Oklahoma State, and Tulsa. And then they have a bunch of D2 programs, right? There's no tweeners, right? So if you go to Illinois, for example, there's the University of Illinois. There's Illinois State, which is a tier down. Yeah. And then there's Southern Illinois, which is an FCS school. In Oklahoma, there's the big three and all D2. There's no in between. So all those kids that aren't good enough to play at the big three, they end up playing D2 ball because there's no in between.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You see what I'm saying? So for me, in QB Impact, I'm a big proponent of pushing our kids to go play JUCO ball.
Yeah.
And the reason is Netflix created this facade of JUCO ball that's not true. It's not like that. In fact, the 5 or 6 JUCO programs, I know their head coaches very well. They run the same kind of program OU and OSU does, top-notch programs. So for me, if I have a guy in QB Impact that can play D1 ball and he's not getting that offer, I always tell parents, go play JUCO ball. Number one, it's cheap. You'll get scholarship money, but if you don't, it's cheap, right? It's like $6,000 to $8,000 a year, number one. Number two, if you can't start there, then you better take your butt to UCO or OBU, right? So, I think those are things that athletes in Oklahoma have to deal with. But to come full circle, I moved to Oklahoma in 2014. And I started QB Impact in 2015, 16 timeframe. So actually, we're getting close to our 10 years of QB Impact. And it really did start as my son being the player of the year, me coaching a handful of quarterbacks in the area, and parents just referring kids to me. Yeah. I was completely lost in marketing. I had like one Facebook page, and it was my personal one, right? I didn't have Twitter yet. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have a business, Facebook. I was collecting cash like a knucklehead. And I remember my first camp was in 2015, and I did it at some terrible soccer arena, like down in Oklahoma City. I had 18 kids at it, and my MVP was like an 11-year-old that should have played right guard, to be honest with you. and I look, and I still have that camp photo.
Right.
And I say this completely humbly. I know it's going to sound arrogant but it's not. I promise. I just finished, a 3-year contract doing my camp at AT&T Stadium.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then now I'm moving to these big, ginormous high school facilities in Texas because I didn't need AT&T, and I thought I did. So I'm doing these camps at AT&T, and I'm spending all this money. Right. And parents are like, dude, like, you don't need AT&T.
Yeah, we're coming anyway.
Right. And for me, I was like, nah, they like AT&T,
There's something cool about it.
Right. So I moved to Melissa High School 2 years ago, and man, we had 210 kids,
Wow.
and this year Anna, and so man, it's been super humbling.
That's amazing.
Super humbling. Yeah.
It's interesting because you've made me think of a couple of things, and one of the big things demographic wise, I think that I look at when it comes to like high school stuff is, so Kevin and I both grew up in Missouri, and it's so funny coming here because I wrestled in middle school just for fun, thought it would be cool, and I get to my high school, and our wrestling coach at my high school in Southwest Missouri, was in Springfield, Missouri, went to Glendale High School, and our wrestling coach at the time when I came in, our old one had gotten fired, and they stuck in some teacher who was a blue belt in judo never wrestled a day in his life. And he's like, you're the wrestling coach. And it's so interesting because obviously wrestling in some areas is a smaller sport than a lot of things, but it's so funny because none of our athletes came out for wrestling. Like none of the real athletes came out for wrestling. And even I was like, what am I doing? This guy doesn't know how to wrestle. Like I was a freshman and I could beat him in wrestling. And I'm like, that's just a weird dynamic. You're not supposed to be able to do that.
No.
And like, it's so funny because I look back to even my high school and football was taken like halfway seriously. But at the same time, there were kids who were bigger, stronger, like more athletic that like they just didn't want to play, or the coach, like there was no incentive and no like desire to play. And so it's really interesting because I just think back to that of like, if you truly had at my high school the crop of kids that you could have pulled from, like we probably would have been a better team than we would have been, especially in wrestling,
Yeah.
And it finally took like my senior year where they actually like hired a legit wrestling coach, and the football coach made all the football players wrestle. And it was like, but it's very interesting because, you start looking at moving to Oklahoma now, and now I'm talking to, we've got a couple of guys, like I was talking to Draven, who's one of our employees who wrestled all through, his whole life and wrestled in college. And, I talked to him and he's like, oh, my wrestling team was,
legit.
Yeah, 45 kids.
Right,
and I'm like, our wrestling team was 6. And it's like, it's such an interesting thing where it's like, sports in different areas, obviously have like a higher level. But, I remember even then the kids who were really, really good at wrestling and it looked like, they had an opportunity, there was a kid I remember who was like a state champion like freshman year and had some crazy record or whatever, and like up and moved to Iowa the next year, because his parents are like, we got to get you out of here. Like we got to get you somewhere where like you can get noticed, where like you can actually have some challenges and you're facing higher level of athletes.
Tougher to get much better when you're wrestling everybody that doesn't really have a chance like that.
Right. And so it's
no
very interesting. And so I'm sure some of that happens too, where families move kids around because they see their opportunities. But yeah, just interesting. It's a super interesting perspective to have from you.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I have a kid that actually moved from Kansas in his training. He was an 8th grader and he moved from Kansas to Oklahoma. His dad, we just talked about, worked remote. So they moved to Oklahoma to play high school ball to give him opportunities. And the kid gets gets a scholarship to play college football, which was, you look back and say mom and dad made a bold decision, but he went to college for free.
Right.
So like it's bold and people were like, that's dumb, but he went to college for free, right?
I've been
he's not, now he's not playing in the NFL, but his dream was to play college football and he had that opportunity, right? So at the end of the day, I think it's even the spectrum of the land, it's changed so much now, especially with, we just got done talking about remote work, right? So parents have so much more leverage. They're not driving into that 9-to-5 job anymore. So they can, my wife, her warehouse is in Nebraska, but she's here with me in Oklahoma because she's works remote. So I think that's given kids opportunities to go to different places and have different experiences. Right. I do think there's no doubt in my mind, there's the lay of the land of athletics is different in every state. I can tell you this, when I was a 9th grader, my sister was married and starting her life. She's 6 years older than me in Indiana. And I went to visit her for the summer, and she's like, "Hey, we're going to sign you up for basketball camp." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I understand, I grew up in Hawaii, right? So I played basketball in Hawaii. No,
yeah,
I just at Indiana right?
basketball.
So I go to this basketball camp, and I'm like, I have no business, no business being at this basketball camp. And I could and as I'm talking to kids, like they're like, do you play football? Yeah, but I play basketball, right? Like it's the other, you talk to Oklahoma kids, they play football and then they play basketball or track.
Right.
In Indiana, it was like, no, you play basketball.
Right.
And then if you have time, you play football, right?
Right.
So I do think there's obviously the Kentuckys and the Carolinas. I do think there are states that are driven and towards.
Right.
Do you think that you've been able to help bring some attention, where you talked about, a lot of schools not having scouts here in Oklahoma, but man, as far as I can tell, Oklahoma is still generally a big football state. Like it's very much a sport that it seems like people are very into, especially compared to Missouri, which was probably close. But do you feel like you've been able to, with your connections that you have from Florida, bring some attention to some kids or help guide them and give them opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise?
Yeah. So I think, well, number one, and I appreciate the question, but I'm not the reason kids get the opportunity,
Sure,
right?
for sure.
But their hard work and me making connections with college coaches may give them that opportunity. But at the end of the day, they have to put it on film and they have to play when that coach is watching, right? I mean, so yeah, I think I've been able to give kids in Oklahoma opportunities outside of the norm. Meaning there's some kids that, I'll give you an example. I just had a freshman quarterback go do a camp in northern Arizona because the head coach is a good friend of mine, right? Is that normal? Absolutely not. Does the guy in northern Arizona love him? Absolutely. Would that have ever happened? No. But the caveat to that is that would have never happened if the kid didn't work his ass off, because the reason I introduced him was because he deserved it.
Right.
So I will say this, and I will say it publicly: if kids don't work, I don't take part in recruiting, because at the end of the day, the credibility goes on me telling coaches that I believe in their ability and I believe that they're going to be a good example for their program.
Right.
Especially in today's society, because it's so noisy. I keep an eye on social media on our kids. I mean, I've texted kids when they said something about a girl at school on social media, and I'm take it down, and parents appreciate that.
Right.
But I say this, I won't train kids that don't know how to act.
Right.
And that doesn't mean I turn away kids because they're not perfect. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, as I mold and build relationships with kids, they're going to act right, or I'm not going to train them and co-sign. So, I've been blessed. I've been humbled to be around great families that support what we do. And a lot of, as I'm picking on Oklahoma a little bit, but honestly, a lot of my assistant coaches are OU Sooner guys that have Jimmy Wilkerson, right? Played at OU, played in the NFL. He trains our D line. Moses Madu, is probably one of the best running back guys I've ever been around. And he trains our running backs. And Sean Love played at Oklahoma State. So there's a lot of guys within QB Impact that train that have embraced the college atmosphere here in Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And it's important. I think kids should be around those guys, because it's the legacy of Oklahoma football.
Right.
And I'm an old school guy. I think legacy is important. Like, for me, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for those that came before me. And I wish, and I try to instill that in young people. I wish they would, number one, stop thinking they're smarter than us. And number two, realize that legacy is important. There's people who went through a lot of things to give you these platforms, even NIL, right? There's a lot of people who didn't get anything so that you could have NIL opportunities. Right. And I wish young people would realize that, and instead of realizing that it's all about them, and realizing that a lot of people sacrifice so they could have those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think we tend to have a very similar mindset to the staff that we bring on. It's funny, we have some people that ask if we're hiring or drop by a resume or this or that, and a lot of people will assume, hey, do I have to be NASM certified? Do I have to know a lot about supplements? Do I have to have experience? It's no, none of that. Just be coachable.
Yeah.
When when it comes to how to treat customers in the store, when it comes to getting you up to date, up to speed on the knowledge that you need to have over all the ingredients, all the supplement categories. When we go to you and we're trying to help you learn, it's, if you have a different opinion and you voice that well, and we can have a conversation, that's totally fine. But if you take the approach of, I don't think that's right, and you become not coachable and go against the grain and don't have the respect that, I mean, we've been doing this for a decade. We've learned a couple of things where we know we're not perfect ourselves, but at the same time, man, like we gotta be rowing the boat in the same direction, and so we have to get on the same page. So being coachable is really the only thing that we ask for, and to be a good person too. So.
Yeah, you know, I will say that, and it's not because I'm on your podcast, but you're I can tell you as many times as I've gone in to try it and swipe my credit card, which is a lot. I will tell you, your people are fantastic.
Thank you.
And they've always been kind. Now, we built a relationship and a friendship, but they've always been kind and professional. I recall about a young lady with glasses. I forgot her name.
Kaylin.
She's awesome, though.
Yeah.
She's awesome. But you know, one thing I tell my guys is character never lies.
Oh yeah.
Certificates do, but character doesn't lie, man. And I truly believe that. And I agree with you 1,000%. You can walk into ISP with a stack full of certs, but if you don't know how to treat people, if you don't know how to talk to people, if you're a douche and you're just that guy, sorry,
You're good. Cuss away.
that I'm not like. It doesn't fit our culture,
Yeah.
you know. But honestly, if you're a guy that walks in with no certs, you're willing to get with our trainers and learn and work on certs over time, and we can give you a plan. I'm all in, because that's what we're looking for. Good people that want to be better and learn. And I'm even okay. Like, let's fail. I'm okay.
Amen.
Let's fail, and then let's figure it out together. You know. And I think, you know, for me, QB Impact and ISP. That's really what it is, right? It's a culture of people who want to see each other grow. The platforms are a little bit different, but they're also a testament of each other. There's no ISP without QB Impact, and vice versa. So the culture of people that are in that building have the same mindset, and the mindset is to grow together and to work together and to treat people right. And it's the same thing with the kids I train. And it's not a cliche, and I tell them all the time. I said, "Hey, like, open the door for your mom and stop being take your ass out there and open the door for your mom, right? Like, treat your girlfriend right. Be different." It's sad, but in today's society, teaching young men to do those things is a teachable moment. There was a time when that was a part of your standards in life, and it's not anymore. And I had the opportunity last week to speak to Tyler Junior College's football team before their game against Dodge City, and that was one of my things. And I was like we got to get back to being men. And by the way, my wife is one of the strongest women CEOs I've ever been around. And guess what? She wants a man in her life. And I think young men need to get back to being strong men that know how to act and know how to treat their woman, that know how to treat other people, that know how to open the door. And man, you got me on a soapbox.
Yeah, no, it's good though. But it's like you see it at all levels. It's like you see knuckleheads keep being knuckleheads, you know. And it's
1,000.
like I remember there was a kid from our hometown who was highly recruited. And went on to play college ball, went on to play second round draft pick into the NFL. And I remember telling people all the time, like, he's going to be a bust. And people are like, why? And I'm like, because he plays for Tennessee Sunday. And I saw him last night at the club in Springfield, Missouri on a Friday. Every Friday, he would fly back to his hometown, go party all night Friday night in his hometown, and then show up for his games on Sunday. And second round draft pick, made it a couple years in the league, got passed around a couple times, made a practice squad, and then was out. Yep. And it's like, but it's just like, if you're a knucklehead, you're a knucklehead. And if that's how, and you know, I don't know him overly well personally or anything, or how he was raised or whatever, but it's like, man, at some point you got to start taking something serious.
Well, you're 100% right, and it alludes back to talent lies.
Oh yeah,
because talent will run out when you cheat character, right? So you know, so that's why for me, you know, the mindset of if your character's good, you're good, right? And but there's things that come with it, right? Working your ass off and not being a victim, not having that victim mindset. I think kids are so afraid to fail. And I think, like, when I went to football practice, like, my parents didn't come. My parents barely showed up to the game on time, which because they worked. They worked, right? Like, so when the game started, they left work and came to the game. But now, like, parents like come to practice, right? And they hover and they sit in the parking lot. And I'm like, let your men be men.
Yeah.
And like let them go to practice and fail. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay, or they're never going to experience failure, right? Because they're always put on this pedestal. And I'm like if you come to train with me, you're going to fail. I promise you. Because you need to fail. Like,
right.
And we're going to find that limit.
They're going to find your limit, and there's a certain amount of humility that comes with failure. And if you never experience it, you'll never know how to recover from it. You know what I'm saying? And get up. So I'm with you, man. I think talent runs out, and talent will absolutely lie to you, because the dude looks great running down the field, but how does he act in the classroom, or when if he's dating your daughter, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, yeah, he got kicked out of school too for, I think he's beating up his girlfriend or something in college, and still got a second round draft pick.
That's
and
unreal, isn't it?
You just start looking and you're like, man, it's all there. All the signs are there. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, amen.
That's
amen.
unreal, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's really interesting. It's so funny because my wife is a coach. She coaches volleyball, and she coaches a highly competitive, like 15-year-old travel team. And it's always really interesting, like listening to her talk about like the coach and parent dynamic, and how it's, like some parents are all gung ho, and some parents are, I can't believe, you let my daughter go to the restroom by herself. That was that door from here to that door, you know what I mean? And it's really interesting because you have a whole another level of like parenting that is just like involved in things, and like it's very interesting. And she's very like, oh, I'm your mama now. Like, I got you for the next hour and a half. Like, your parents can sit out in the parking lot, and like, but it's really interesting. Like, it's a whole different thing.
It is. And the conclusion, right? Parenting. I mean, you can attest that to changes in society.
Right.
I mean, parenting, I've always told my boys, and people take it as a joke, but it's really not. I told them, I'm like, look, you're going to pick one or two scholarships, or you're going to pick one or two ships, a scholarship or a Navy ship. Yeah. That's what and that's the honest truth. I said, I'm not paying for college.
Right.
So you're going to work hard enough to go play football in college, or you're going to join the military. That's it. Right. And, that's a decision I made for them as a parent, and that's a decision I was going to live by, because I had been through the turmoils of life to be able to help make those decisions for my boys. Right. But I literally coach kids that are 12 that are like, no, mom, I'm not going to that school. And mom's like, or dad, and I'm like, why are you letting him make that decision?
Yeah.
And why does little Johnny, his friend, have anything to do with it?
Right.
Like, who cares?
Right.
Like,
it's so interesting.
It's so interesting, the dynamic of kids and parents today. And it's funny because, no joke, like 2 weeks ago, I looked at a dad and I was like, and I think he didn't know how to take me. And we got done with training, and I could see his son talking to him. And I was like, hey, like, do you live with him, or does he live with you? Because
it's a good way to phrase that.
Because come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now. So I agree with you. I don't know when the mentality of things change with that. But I do think parenting and getting control of your children at a certain age and being a part of their lives in the right way has definitely been lost in our country for a long time. And by the way, I don't have a problem with timeout, but I do joke with my kids. Like, if I have a knucklehead, I'm like, bro, you're straight timeout, baby.
Yeah, right.
Just so you know, I don't have a problem with timeout, but I got my ass whooped, dude.
Yeah, right.
And here's the deal. By no means was it abuse. By no means. Right. She just smacked my...
Yeah, right.
And I didn't do it again.
Oh,
you know what I'm
for
saying?
sure.
So,
my grandpa used to call it calibrating. And I'd be sitting there, and he'd grab my ear, and he'd turn it until I'd squeal a little bit, and he'd be like, I think it's working. And that would be it. And turns out I didn't like doing things that made me get calibrated.
Dude, my mom, my mom is Vietnamese. So my mom is Asian, and she beat my ass with a back scratcher. Yeah. I'm like, she cried after, though. Yeah. She'd spank me and be like, I'm so sorry. I'm like,
But it's fun. It's just really interesting. She, my wife, she is over the years, she's had good experiences and not so good experiences, and she's just had some like ones that are really interesting where it's like, because she's a no nonsense coach, like she's a no nonsense coach. She's tough.
I believe
she's
it.
Tough on those girls, but they're 15. It's the right age. Like they need that like something, and I just remember like she was having issues with parents not coming to her and trying to like start stuff in the group chat. And
Oh
it's
my
just,
gosh,
and she's like, I don't like, she makes a rule, and I think it's a club rule, but it's a great rule where it's something like, you're not allowed to contact the coach 24 hours after a game, within the first 24 hours after a game. Like you
You're
go
emotional.
sit in the corner and you cool off about whatever you're upset about, and then you can come to the coach after 24 hours.
That's a great
and
rule.
And if
2401, tick, tick, tick.
yeah, right. And it's like somebody would text her in 24 hours and be like, you know the rule. Sorry, talk to you in 23 and a half hours.
That's a great rule.
It's really interesting. But she'd had a girl at one point who was like making nasty TikToks about it, like all this stuff. And he was like, get out of here.
Yeah.
She's like, what do you mean? We're about to go to nationals. It's like, you're not going anywhere. Like, sorry. And the mom's like, well, what in the world? Like, no, like, sorry.
It's funny you say that. I remember specifically getting a text from a dad about playing time. I remember specifically. And I paused for a second and I was calling plays. I wasn't a head coach. And I called the head coach and I said, hey, we're going to meet with Mr. Jones tomorrow.
Right.
And we met with him, and we film anywhere I've ever coached, we film practice. And I pulled a practice film and I said, watch your son. Pulled up, that was Monday, pulled up Tuesday's practice film, pulled up clips, watch your son.
Right.
Would you play him?
Right.
So he tells you he's the best at home.
Right.
And he is the best in that play, but when we do conditioning, he's last.
Yeah.
So which best do you think we're looking for? The kid who doesn't want to work hard when it's time to work? You know what I'm saying? So I definitely know that I could imagine what she deals with, and being in the private sector of it, just like she is. It's even a little bit more difficult because you got to be careful with being their advocate, because when they come to training and they complain about their high school coaches,
right.
I'm very guarded with high school coaches because I know what kids do, right? So if I give them a response that's negative towards their high school coach, that gives them my credibility to use that as ammunition.
Right.
And so I think it's a very, you have to be smart, but you have to be very firm on, I want their high school programs to support me because I'm going to be an advocate for it, not say every time you go to Coach George, you come back and don't like something about what we do. Right. And it doesn't help anyway. It doesn't help the program. So I try to be, it's especially in today's society, it's hard because guys are guarded by their players, and I was as a high school coach. So building that relationship is important for me, having those guys trust me.
Right.
And I think that's something that's built up over time. But I think it starts with being an advocate for their program and knowing that, like, my goal is to make him productive for you. My goal is not to call him my guy. It's to make him productive for you so you win on Friday night. You know what I'm saying? And then help you through the recruiting process. So I definitely think there's a difference between what me and your wife does in the private sector versus being a actual high school coach.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a different thing you got to deal with. So
no, absolutely.
I'm sure there's obviously your coaching business relies on not just the players, but the schools and the teams themselves. So yeah, you're kind of having to take both sides. I feel like you're kind of in a unique position to kind of play third party. And if there are some disagreements between players and coaches, to be able to hopefully help find some common ground or some kind of compromise. Do you have any examples of that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've gotten, I've had text messages with coaches and what's he doing at practice, or, hey, I'm teaching him to do these steps. What do you guys do? And then we'll my goal is to teach them whatever they're utilizing at their high school. Right. So if I teach a certain step, but their high school does it that way, I always tell him to do it the way that's most productive for his high school. But yeah, I mean, if kids come to training and they have some negative, they talk through practice and the coach is doing this and do what I try to do is I try to take the coach's stance on this and say, okay, what did you do in school? Are you watching film? Huddle, are you watching enough film? Because huddle is something that coaches can track. Are you on the whiteboard? I know physically you're throwing the ball well, but what are you doing everything else well? Are you handing off the ball well? Are you encouraging your offensive line? Are you a good student? Like, are you doing everything or are you just complaining about that 1% of the, So, yeah, I mean, I try to be an advocate for both sides. There's times that, that I pick up the phone and call the coach. And by the way, he can hang up on me and I would understand that. He does not have to talk to me, right?
Yeah, right.
So when they do, I'm humbled about it and respect it because they don't have to, and I'll have that dialogue with them and say, hey, look, he's looking at it from this lens. You're looking at it from that lens, but I'm just letting you know the conversations we're having so you can talk to them at practice. And hopefully that's helped, which I think it has over times. The problem is, now they have Oklahoma's got a one-time athletic transfer, right? Free transfer. So, in the state of Oklahoma, when you go to 9th grade, you're a free agent. You can go anywhere you want. You don't have to live in district. So when you're in Oklahoma and you go from 8th to 9th grade, you got free choice. If you live in Yukon and you want to go to Jenks and drive every day, you can.
Wow.
Free reign. So you're a free agent. Once you establish your high school, they give you one free transfer without penalty. So because of that, and by the way, that just came out in July, because of that, I have to be careful because now that kids have a get out of jail free card
right,
without moving houses and all that, got to be careful with the difference between I'm whining because I'm not playing or you're actually in a bad situation. Right. So I do think that's a tough area. And I try to massage it more so than picking a side and kind of figure out.
Sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It could be kind of a bad thing.
Yeah.
I feel like, hey, it's okay if it doesn't work out here.
Right. But I'm not going to be naive. Do I think that there's first of all, I'm a complete advocate for high school coaches. They're underpaid and they work more than like high school coaches work their ass off and they're all underpaid at every level. Volleyball, track, football, they're all underpaid. And it's because they get a bullshit stipend, right? Which if you're not working at the school, they attach it to your salary, which is a good way of saying they pay you more. But if you don't work at the school, then you get like, I think the stipend for football coaches in Oklahoma is like $3,500. $3,500, and you work 4 months, night in and night. Come on now, right?
I remember one of the football coaches
about the
talking
love for the game.
Right. I make keep talking to me like that. I make 96 cents an hour.
Right. So think about that, right? If you're not on salary at the school, you make $3,500 for that season, which is completely ridiculous. So I'm an advocate. My point is, I'd be lying if I didn't say there's kids that don't play college football because of mistakes at their high school. Absolutely. I think it happens all the time. I think it happens less than the other way around, but of course it does. I mean, of course there's high school programs that need to do better and need to be better. I mean,
That is cool that you talked about, if the coaches and their program is teaching, a certain step a certain way. And, I'm sure you have certain ways that you truly believe in and you think are best, but it's cool that you have the mindset of, hey, I need to adapt and adjust my coaching to be able to make sure that they have the most success where they are actually playing. And it reminds me a lot of how we work with trainers, coaches, and even full gyms here in Oklahoma is we have our general beliefs, what we tend to like to recommend and when it comes to supplementing or even dieting as a whole, but we're not naive enough to know that, hey, everybody else doesn't necessarily, their beliefs, their strategies don't line up perfectly with ours. There's a million little tiny things and 1,000 different strategies that you can take. So when we're working with these other people, we try and give as much respect as possible because it's their clients, it's their members, it's everybody that is first and foremost a member of their community, of their culture, and they're following their plan, their strategy. So when a trainer recommends someone to come in the store and they say, hey, they recommend this specific protein, even if it's not our favorite choice. Hey, if that's what your coach is recommending, that's what we're going to get, because it follows. Because if we recommend something else, one, that coach isn't going to trust us enough to recommend them to come back in here anymore. And we appreciate that you're here in the first place. And two, if we change it, it creates a situation where it might have an effect on something else that's part of the plan, and everything might not mesh together as the coach has it put together for you. So it's cool to hear that you are able to adapt and adjust to each school, each program.
Yeah, and I think you have to, but you have to also know the mission, right? So like for me, if I'm training 6 kids and I teach them one thing, but that one kid's school does it different, number one, I have to make sure he does it the way is most effective for his school, right? But then now when the season's over, the goal is to make them productive when they go to college camps, right? So if they're going to Baylor and I know the way Baylor teaches zone read, then that's the way I'm going to teach it. Right. And if they do it a certain way at school, well, my feedback's going to be, look, when you go to college camps, you need to do it this way. What you're doing at school is not wrong, but let's do it this way because it's most effective for the school you're going to visit, right?
Right.
And then let's transition back, come football season. So I think there's a fine line. The thing about it is, feet work. There's such a fine line in feet work and body placement in football that inside zone, every high school in Oklahoma runs inside zone. Well, there's probably 5 different ways to teach feet placement on inside zone. I teach rotate the hips at 45 degrees, right? The kid from Wynnewood, whose head coach is a stud, and had a conversation with me, and he goes, hey, I don't teach hip rotation at 45. I teach pivot off your right foot at 45. So instead of flipping your feet to 45, you pivot. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I teach flip your hips. He teaches keep your right foot stationary and pivot your left. So from the normal person watching in the stands, you're like, oh, whatever, it's zone. Right. But for me, it's like, no, it's not, because if he rotates his hips instead of pivots, now the running back is off track, right? So a lot of things get affected by it. So at the end of the day, for me, let's win as many football games as you can for your high school, and then when it's an opportunity to play college ball, we'll make adjustments. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Recognizing the end goal there is the same. So how to get there? Yeah.
Well, and actually, what's better is them understanding that, right?
Yeah.
Hey, at training, we rotate our hips, but I'm going to pivot because that's what we teach at the high school. So now, in their mind, they're learning the game. So for me, that's productive, right? Because now they're being advocates of the game, and they're not, they're not just talent guys. They actually
when they're
understand.
being interviewed by a coach for something,
Exactly.
he can start talking about, well, in high school we used to pivot, but now I'm just rotating my hip.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And if I'm a college guy, I'm like, oh, okay.
Right. Well, it's funny. I've been watching, I watch Hard Knocks and stuff like that, and I was watching one where it was the Giants off season, and they're interviewing the quarterbacks, and they're going through all this stuff, and obviously that's like super high level.
First of all, I want you to finish, but I watched the same episode. Dude, awesome.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
So cool.
At the combine,
like they're interviewing these quarterbacks at the combine, and they're just throwing questions at them. Okay, well, what are you going to do in this situation? What are you going to do with that? What was that play I read off to you, 10 minutes ago? And he's just like, dude, like
just so in the NFL, it takes them months just to learn how to repeat what they hear.
Yeah.
Because it's it's so long, right? And there's so many changes and supplements and motions, right? So like it's so weird. In high school, there's verbiage. In college, that actually simplifies. It doesn't, it's weird. In high school, there's more verbiage. In college, it's simplified because colleges want to play fast.
Right.
And we live in this one-word hand signal place in college, right? Then when you go to NFL, it's like, your plays are like paragraphs, right? And it's crazy. So you got to think 15 seconds to the huddle, right? 15 seconds to the huddle. And like you said in that episode, the OC is calling out a play, and the players are like, oh, Z motion, Z wag,
Right.
45. Yeah, and with the first of all, the greatest answer to the whole thing was when the kid who went to the Redskins, I think he forgot, and the coach goes, "What would you throw?" And he's like, "A touchdown."
Yeah.
I was like, "Let's go!"
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
Jaden
right.
Daniels.
Well, it's so
That
crazy.
was the greatest answer, dude. The coach was like, "Oh yeah,
all right.
yeah."
Well, and I remember there was, I think they did like a Hard Knocks season. I believe it was when Marcus Mariota was at the Falcons, and it was going through this whole thing with him during like the off season where, he was going through the playbook for the next year, and his wife is sitting there with an iPad and he's sitting across, and she's like, "Yeah, this is essentially my full-time job during this." And she's like, Zone 32, Z-Wag, all these things. And then he's repeating it and then like drawing it. And it's just
ridiculous.
Like, just these guys are memorizing like binders full of
Binders.
stuff. Oh, it's just like,
and by the way, that's just the verbal play. That's not even the line of scrimmage,
Right.
the check, the adjustment,
right.
the rolling
understanding
coverage.
the defense.
Right.
Nothing.
It's so funny. Shelly is a diehard Nebraska fan. Diehard. And I'm a Notre Dame fan, but she's a diehard Nebraska fan. And they've had some struggles the last couple of years at quarterback. They got a stud this year, but they've had some struggles. So no joke, we'll be at home and I'll press pause and I'll rewind it and go in slow-mo. And I'm like, okay, pause. Who's open? And she'll say, "Oh, that guy's open." I'm like, "Well, why doesn't he see that, right?" He's open.
Right.
Why doesn't he know he's open, right?
Well, and I think, it's so funny too, because, and you can attest to this as much as anybody, but I always tell this story when, and I use it as an analogy sometimes, but we were playing high school ball and it was like my junior year, right? And we're playing against, I want to say it was Ray-Pec, which is out of like a Kansas City area. Really, really good football program, or at least it was. And we're in the playoffs, and they spank us. I'm talking, I think it was like 63-10. Like they just put it on us. Their quarterback threw for like 380 and like 4 touchdowns, ran for another like $150 and another couple of touchdowns, and ended up getting a scholarship, I think, to Nebraska, and I think played 0 games in college. And you start just like realizing, because I played college lacrosse, and it was a super eye-opening experience because
That's a great sport, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I love it. It was a blast. But you start to realize that, and I played for a good team. Like we played club, but club and lacrosse is different. It's very competitive. It's really just like Ivy League and ACC is the only thing that is like legitimate Division I. And then you have other tiers, but really it's like club is really like you're playing OU Texas is a club game, and you start to realize that like the worst kid on my team was the stud on his high school team. Like
No doubt.
he was the one who, like everybody, team captain, whatever. It's like if you're playing for, because we played for Missouri State, and at a club level, Missouri State's really good. Lacrosse is massive in St. Louis, and so a lot of private schools that do it. And we were, whenever I played, we were ranked number 6 in the nation. And like I'm talking, the worst kid on my high school team would have been a team captain on my hii school team.
One doubt.
Yeah,
No doubt.
and so it's so crazy. Like there's levels to this.
Oh, there's complete levels. It's funny. The story you just told. I did a camp 6 years ago at Douglas High School. I had 100 kids there. I'm in the auditorium. At the time, my oldest son, Nick, he just transferred from Central Florida, UCF, to UCO. And the reason he transferred to UCO is because he loves his brother and he wanted to see him finish his high school career. So he transferred to UCO from a Division I school, obviously. So it was a no-brainer, right? UCO was like, please.
Yeah.
So he transfers to UCO, and I do this camp, right? And 100 kids there, and I stand up, and the number one thing I fight with the parents is my kid's a Division I football player. They have no clue what that means, right?
Right.
So I make an announcement. I'm like, if you think you're a Division I football player, stand up. And no joke, most parents are like, yo, stand up.
Yeah.
So these kids stand up, probably 40 kids stand up, right? So I said, hey, stay right there. And then I look over to the curtain and I bring out 10 UCO football players, including my son, right, who's 6'2", 290. So I bring out 10 UCO football players and I look in the audience and I'm like, that's funny because they're D2 players and none of you look like them.
Right.
Like you all think you're D1 football players and there's monsters on stage, right? And none of you could play at UCO. And I think parents don't understand levels and what all that means. Like if you go to UCO, the difference between UCO and OSU is this thing called scholarships. UCO gets 52, OSU gets like 85, right? So there's a lot more depth and a lot more money, right? So the recruitment is different. But UCO and I don't want OBU or their starting 11 are dudes, man.
Yeah.
I mean, so people don't realize Gage Porter, who NFL prepped with us at ISP, played at SNU last year. He led the nation in rushing at SNU. Nation at every level. Think about it. To think there's a day I can look at you and say, the guy at SNU led the nation in rush. I'm talking about nation at every level, and if you go to any kid in Oklahoma's high school and say, hey, you should play at SNU, they're going to scoff at you.
Right.
Oh, I'm a D1 guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's funny you say that because I completely agree. I don't think the thing about it is I think most people live in a bubble. Yeah. And it's like that in Oklahoma too, right? That's why I honestly encourage when I do my camp in Texas and I have 210 kids from all over the country, it's an eye opener because kids from Oklahoma go down there and they're like, oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Like I was really good on my team.
Yeah.
And, like I'm trying to get in line to get a rep at camp, right? And I think it's an eye opener for these kids to go, hey, like just remember there's 1.4 million high school football players in America. Right. So you're that's who you're competing against when you go to college. Right. And then going to the NFL is a totally different animal. Right.
Well, and that's, and I tell people about it too, because it's like, even in like from a lacrosse standpoint, it's like one of the best high school players on my like high school team played college with me. And like, he was a stud. Like he was so good in high school. And he was, cause in high school, not as much, but in college, and obviously beyond, but it's like in lacrosse, you have offensive midfielders and defensive midfielders. You sub on the fly in lacrosse like hockey. And like, he went from being our like line one midfielder, he barely came off the field. He played offense, defense, whatever, scored all the time, one of our leading scorers, high up in assists, and he was our fourth line defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
And then, there's another kid, I won't name names, I'll name this name, but then there's Mark Jasper, who is maybe the most athletic person I've ever been around in my entire life, is 6'2", 210, could probably run a 4.5, 4.6 40 and could rip it 105 left or right hand. And you're just like, oh.
Yeah. He's different.
Yeah, no, he's and can score a goal at an angle that seems impossible. And you're just like, oh. And then when you're coming back on defense, if you're not looking, he's going to knock you out. He's going to knock you out. And you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
maybe that's right.
No doubt.
And it's crazy.
Yeah, and I think it's like that
and he's not playing D1 lacrosse.
Right. We're talking about lacrosse and football, but across the board, right? Basketball and I think it's like that at all sports, right? It's just there's such a huge transition between high school and college, and then realizing that even to play Division I athletics. Now, are there misses? Yeah, of course there's misses, but you have to be a specimen that's willing to go. I always say, you have to go outside of your body to prepare to be a Division I football player. The things you don't think you're capable of doing, you have to do, right? And I think you have to figure out what that is, because I think kids that go to football practice for 90 minutes after high school and maybe get up early and do their homework or whatever think that's That's not college football, dude.
Yeah.
Right? Like college football is, and it's funny because Justin Broyles came to played at OU. I coached against him in high school. He came to speak to my group one day, and he was like, and the context he put it in was actually really cool. And he's like, look, my head coach makes $8 million a year. Like if you're not capable, he's going to find somebody else capable, because he's winning games is how he feeds his family, right?
Yeah, right.
And I don't think we look at it from a business standpoint. We just look at it as winning games when little Johnny doesn't play in college. And I try to, the biggest thing I try to express to my parents and kids when they go to college is, you better stop thinking it's a game, because it's a business.
Right.
And after you get recruited, you're a number, and they're going to love up the next kid who they're trying to recruit to beat you, by the way. Right. So you're always competing, because they're always recruiting behind you. So, I think I fear that high school's starting to become a business. I fear that because I think it's going to hurt the game. But college football is 1,000% all business.
Yeah.
It's all business, man.
Makes sense.
Well, plays coaches pretty quickly. I guess I don't know how quickly in college, but
Pretty quick.
yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, again, like you have to win games, or you got to start. You're fearing for your job. So.
That's right.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
You got boosters and people who are putting money in, who are like, they're not going to keep putting money in if you're not winning games.
Right.
Right.
Well, kind of a switch of topic real quick, just because I don't want this to go unnoticed on this podcast, is how badass of a gym you guys have, because it is one of the coolest places I've been to. It is awesome.
Man, I appreciate that. It was a lot of coffee shop and bourbon meetings, man, that led up to that. I'll be totally honest with you. It was more of a, it's crazy because a lot of people that come in the gym and we sit down and talk, they think the goal was just to build a badass gym, right? When really the goal was to build a gym that had the right culture and mindset for people and trainers that wanted to train there.
Yeah.
Because I met a lot of great trainers over the last 7-8 years that, for whatever the issue, they were unhappy at their gym. And I'm not here to poke gyms, but they were just unhappy because of the culture, because of the ownership, because of the things, the cleanliness, whatever the case may be. I was like, man, like, he's a good human being, or she's a good human being. Like, I don't think it's her or him. And so really it was building a place where we could bring in the right people to be the right trainers, and then be a place that we could grow with our members. And that's the honest truth. Like I'm lifting next to a member, and they know that I own the gym, so they can talk to me.
Right.
And there's a lot of gyms you can't do that, right? You can't bench press next to the owner and say, hey, I love the gym, or hey, it rained last night, there's a lot of mud in the parking lot, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, right.
So, for me, it's I'm humbled by it. We poured a lot of time and effort into it. I was really, really, really blessed that we had some parents from QB Impact that came in as investors, because they believed in QB Impact being a part of Impact Strength and Performance, and how they would mesh together. And they also believed in the people and the trainers in the building. And yeah, I'm excited about it, man. It's, as you guys know, in business, I went from no overhead to overhead, right? So, QB Impact was a revolving account. There was no overhead, right? Money in, money out, paid the bills, right? So, and I paid my coaches as 1099 guys. So there was never anything piling up. So one of my biggest fears was, of course, across the board, gyms normally fail. I'm being honest with you. Like, across the country, gyms normally fail. So, doing it the right way, and being smart about it, and then being patient with it. It's been exciting, but I'll be honest, it's been a little bit of stress on making sure my investors get their money back for investing in our product, but also running the gym the way we want to run it, and being patient with the people we have in the gym.
Right.
So, I mean, it's been exciting. It's been exciting, and it's taken a lot of time to add up to this point. But I'm excited about the growth. I mean, we've had we've had some businessmen from outside of Oklahoma, specifically Arizona, that have reached out about, because I train kids from other states, that have reached out about building one in Arizona. And, for me, it's patience, 3 to 5 years, and then we'll revisit if that even makes sense. But the hardest thing to explain to people is ISP because of the trainers and coaches.
Right.
So like if you took the name away and called it whatever you want, the reason it's there is because of the trainers and coaches. Yep. So just because you put up that building in another state, you don't reciprocate what's in the building.
Right.
And I think for me, marketing is big, name recognition and branding is big. But for me, I'm not going to Triad to buy supplements if the people inside Triad aren't treating me right and doesn't have core ownership. And that's the honest truth. I'll drive further to get treated right than I will just to give somebody my money. I think for me, from a business standpoint, that's what I'm excited about, is the continued growth. Sometimes in business, things get a little bit stressful, but
You need a refill?
I was gonna cheers you.
I think he's empty.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll cheers a little bit. Yeah, you can refill me. Things can get stressful.
So, quick question for you: obviously you were operating QB Impact like you said, with no overhead, and as cool of a moment for you, as I'm sure it was, to start to finally put the finishing touches on the gym. I know I got to do a walkthrough as that was happening and everything was really starting to fall into place. And it's, again, such a cool facility, and I'm sure that's such a cool moment for you. Obviously, going to the point where you have a lot of overhead. What was the reason or reasons that you decided to jump into having overhead?
I was, well, first of all, I have to be careful with the things I preach to young business people and families if I'm not willing to do it.
Right.
So number one, I dive in the ocean. I'm not a toe dipper. Right. And I'm not a guy that goes to the beach and I'm like, I'm like, we spend a lot of money to fly on vacation. I'm jumping in the water, right? I'm not a toe dipper. I'm a guy that's not afraid to take a risk. And what I did was I found myself afraid to take a risk. And I kept telling myself not to take the risk when everybody around me, and not that I follow what people around me tell me, but when strong business people that were involved in QB Impact, parents that were successful business people, said, like, this is how it comes together, right? Like, QB Impact is this large national brand. There's coaches all over the place, but this is how it comes together, right? So number one, it was time to take the risk. And number two, the alignment of the building and investors kind of fell into place. I had an investor, a QB Impact parent, come to me, basically as a majority investor, and then we reached out, and I had about four QB Impact dads come to me as an investment opportunity, and that kind of came together around the same time. And then for about 2 months, I was geeking out on I forgot what the website was, looking at buildings. And I looked at like 3 buildings, and none of them they were expensive. It didn't work. The developer and me didn't mesh, and it was just random. My wife goes to Trader Joe's quite a bit down in Nichols Hills, and I was driving down there, and I saw a sign. I went to the back, and I was like, I looked, and it was concrete and steel. That's it, just concrete and steel. And I'm like, and there was the developer sign, and I called him, and he was like, hey, my office is right around the corner. I'm not far. I'll drive right up. He drove up, and we talked literally for an hour and a half. And he said, I'm at the point where you can do what you want to the building, and I'll finish it for you. Mm-hmm. And so, in the next probably 3 to 4 days, I called, got some confirming with mine, because everybody says they want to invest until they got to cut the check. That's real. Like, everybody's like, oh, I got you, I'll invest. Hey, oh, I mean, it's bad timing.
Yeah,
So,
right.
so I made the phone calls and we put a operating agreement together. And I've been really fortunate because even the attorney that does all our stuff, he's a QB Impact dad, right? So he helped me with the operating agreement, the business plan. We put all that together.
Sound like us. Everybody that does anything for us is a Triad customer.
Listen,
from the guy who works on our HVAC to hanging speakers, it's everybody.
And it was so out of my. I'll be honest with you, it was so out of my element. Like I'm a military guy that coaches and that understands the leadership, right? But dealing with shares and investments and who's going to be the operating managers, right? And then these guys are shareholders, how QB Impact goes into the operating agreement. So it's so dealing with that to the point where I got a little frustrated because I'm very black and white, and not everything's black and white in business, but I'm black and white. Yeah. So some of my meetings, I would get frustrated. So it took a couple months and finally, we got to the point where we signed documents and got to going. And the first thing I did was, I sat down with Mahala. Mahala's my guy. I always told Mahala if we do a building,
he's the best.
He's going to be my GM and we're going to do this together. And, I sat down with Mahala and we made a list and I said, I am not going to build something that I tell people I'm going to build, but not do it. Like, I'm not going to say, hey, in 9 months when it's done, we're going to have the best equipment. And then they walk in, it's not the best equipment.
Right.
Because we cut costs. I said, I'm not doing that. Right. So what's the best equipment in the world? We made a lot of phone calls and Play is the best equipment in the world. Right. In fact, the term I got was it's the Bugatti of equipment. Right.
Yeah.
We got a Play rep in. We in 2 weeks, we did architectural renderings and got it rolling, dude. And and I'll be honest with you, I was in the building every day in every nook and cranny to the point where they were putting up walls and I would come in with the developer was on site. So I would borrow his shop vac and I would shop vac by the walls and he's like, hey, I promise you, dude, like when we're done, we will take care of that. Right?
Yeah.
Like you're just going to drive yourself nuts.
Yeah, right.
Like what I had to learn was construction sites are a mess.
Yeah.
Let them be a mess, right? They know what they're doing. And timeliness, your time is not the same as their time.
Yeah.
So coming from a military guy, if you tell me 7 days, it's 7 days. Not 7 days, but this didn't come in and the drywall.
We've dealt with that a few times. Huh?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was very, the level of understanding business and build outs and going over budget in my build out and understanding how that circumstances affects me. That's the first time I've dealt with that. So it was a very big learning experience for me, even now, as as we build QuickBooks and get our money settled every month and dealing with the P&L, that's QB Impact was in and out, dog. It was me. Like I'm in my iPhone in notes and I'm like, it's super simple. I mean, so this was all very new to me and I'm figuring it out. And, but I'm excited about it. And, I need to be patient with it, but it's definitely something that came together for we really do. It's not a cliche when people join the gym. We really do want them to feel like you can come in here and work your ass off, and every trainer and owner is literally applauding you.
Yeah,
like we literally, it's like this term. I use it all the time for my athletes, and I say gas, and it's give a shit. People don't give a shit anymore. Yep. And we really do, we really do give a shit that you're taking care of your health and wellness, because especially in today's society with the issues with food and the things we're eating and the things we're putting in our body and all these things going on, you have to take care of your health and wellness, man.
The culture at the gym, like you said, it's built on the trainers and the coaches that you have, right, and the mentality and the culture. It's a very real thing. I've been in two gyms from a physical standpoint will look identical, but you walk in and it's like, I don't even really have to talk to anybody, but just the mentality from one to the next just feels different. And some I feel like I fit in, and others I don't. And not to say that the ones I don't fit in aren't a good gym or a good culture. It's just not the culture that I fit in with.
Right.
So.
And it goes down to, and I won't name the gym, but like when I see gyms in Oklahoma and I see Instagram posts and their trainers have their shirt off and they're training next to somebody's wife, I'll be honest with you, man. I want to put my hands on them because I'm like, what I am not going to do at my gym is I am not going to have a husband worried about his wife working out in my gym.
Yeah, right.
Ever, or his daughter,
Right.
because I got some trainer in the corner with his shirt off posing in the mirror because he doesn't care about the welfare of the gym, right? Like my wife works out there, my daughter works out there. Every young lady that works out at that gym, I want their father or husband to be satisfied that she's good.
Yeah.
Like the staff is going to make sure she's good. And dude, that for me, that's a big deal. And when my daughter goes in there in yoga pants and a shirt and she's working out, I don't need grown ass men.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
like I'm not doing that.
Right.
So for me, I'm protective of that because I see it and it's it irritates the shit
it's
out of me.
important to you. Right.
Yeah, it's very important to me because I think it's important that if your wife comes to work out in my gym, you can trust that she's good.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, and vice versa, by the way, when you work out, she can trust that, that, you know, and I don't, what's weird about it is I don't think people see that though. Like that, dude, trainers with their shirt off training in gym. I think that drives me nuts, bro.
It's gotten crazy.
What are we
it's
doing?
Like, it's not just shirt off. It's like shirt off, shorts around their ankles, underwear pulled up. And I get it, you know, like I guess
That's maybe a bodybuilding thing a little bit.
for sure. It is for sure. And it's like, but it is like a very interesting and we talk about this all the time because we're a little older, right? Like we're in our 30s. And it's like when we were even in college, that was not a thing. Like that was not a thing.
My
at
job when I worked at the Missouri State Rec Center was my job. If you walked in, I think you had to have like certain shorts and like I think
You couldn't wear tank tops. I know that.
you couldn't wear tank tops. Yeah, I remember. I think I had to kick some people out that were wearing.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
and I think there's a time and place, right?
Sure,
like
yeah.
if I'm doing a bodybuilding meet or something like that,
Or you're posing in a special room
right? That's
or
what
whatever.
I'm saying.
Right.
But I'm, yeah. Anyway, I'm excited about where we're at. I would like to see us grow a little bit quicker. However, I understand. Just be patient. You know.
Sure.
You know, so I think for me right now is understanding, you know, the good part is we have our software gives us a demographic of age and gender. And so we know where we lack and what we need more of. And I think the problem with ISP right now is a lot of people think it's a football factory. And so a lot of people are like, well, you know, that's where all the football guys go. They don't realize that, no, it's a general population gym, right? And we have some young ladies that train there also. So I think that's something I need to do a better job at, is understanding from a marketing standpoint that we are not just a football factory, right? We're a place that everybody can come and be a part of. And
it can take some work, but it's possible to change the perception of of everybody in your facility. You talked about it, and obviously we've given a lot of compliments to the facility overall. It's genuinely a cool facility for
amazing.
Anybody. But kudos to you because you talk about having investors for the facility itself, which makes a lot of sense, and the operating agreement with those and I know from personal experience, I've been in both situations where I've had partners when we were first starting and it was equal partners, and that even relative to your situation was probably more simple. But even that can slow down decisions, can make things tough on trying to make sure you're getting all the best stuff and doing it the right way from the beginning. Because I've also been in the situation where for funding in the past, I've had to create an operating agreement as the sole owner, and I'm like, what the fuck do you mean an operating agreement?
Right,
what we want to do. There's no I take opinions from everybody, but it's my call. And then it was a weird thing with the bank of like, well, we technically need you to like have that on paper. And I'm like, okay. So but man, I'm sure with creating the facility, and bringing to life the vision that you had, that you ran into so many times where it was easy to compromise, or where it seemed like a good decision to compromise on whatever it may be. Because I know from experience there is always temptation to compromise for us. So.
And you can tell you didn't.
Right. Exactly.
No, definitely. I mean, there were definitely times that we got into the aesthetics of the gym, and there were, I think some of the investors were like, where are we at with the aesthetics, right? I get it. We spend a lot of money on equipment, and I'm like, well, okay, so we go buy a Bugatti, and then we go in the bathroom, and there's Hello Kitty wallpaper, and like no,
you park in the Bugatti in the barn.
Right. Like no, like the bathrooms are going to be, like the way we did the bathrooms. We have moms that come in our bathroom that are like, Jesus, like that's like a Nichols Hills female bathroom, right? But again, like what I hate is when people tell you they provide something they don't provide.
Right.
And if I'm going to provide a training facility with that equipment, then they're going to get that when they go to the bathroom. They're going to get that when they go to yoga studio. They're going to get that when they go shower. Right. They're going to get that from our supplement partnership with Try It and Define. That's what they're going to get, because to me, that's the best. So if I'm going to tell you I'm going to give you the best, I'm not going to give you the best half of the time. Right. And in my opinion, I'm going to give you the best trainers and the best GM and the best staff. And so, I mean, there was definitely a little bit, and there was, and there was some back and forth. And at the end of the day, I will say though, with the back and forth, what QB Impact allowed me to do was, those investors were part of QB Impact as parents. So they knew how I was, and they knew that they really didn't believe in ISP. They believed in Tom and the product that I was trying to build as a part of our partnership. So I think at the end of the day, the compromise was really like, okay, we're going to trust because we believe in him, and that's important to me, and that's humbling, and that's if I lose sleep, and I'm not a guy that stresses and loses sleep, but if I do, I want to make sure my investors get their due. And that's important to me, because they invested in me, they trusted in me, they believed in me, and I don't want to be a business that is like, well, it's an investment for a reason. You knew it was a risk. No, I want to. No, I want to be a guy that I'm going to scratch and do everything I can to make sure they get their due, and then we grow from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to pay a compliment. Excuse me. I want to pay a compliment to the gym that. It is probably one of the highest compliments I can pay to a gym. But whenever I go into ISP, which has been a couple times that I've gone in and hung out with Mahala and stuff, and just stopped by and said hi or whatever. I've had the joy of doing jiu-jitsu with Mahala. That's always fun. But there's something about your gym that is not all gyms have, but it is inherently there, that I want to work harder when I'm there than when I'm other places. Yeah. I don't know what it is about the gym. I don't know if it's the setup or the equipment, or I don't know what I don't know if it's the people.
That's rare.
It's probably a combination of all of it. You know what I mean? Because like don't get me wrong, I don't want to talk bad about any gym at all, but it's like when I go to the gym, sometimes I feel myself going through the motions.
Yeah.
Anytime I've ever been there, I'm like, I gotta really, I don't know if I just feel like I have to take advantage of being there, and I really got to get it in, but it is like, there's something about it in the environment where I just feel like I have to push myself, even if I'm working out by myself. I'm somebody who, when I'm by myself, I can kind of find myself getting into a rhythm and kind of slowing down sometimes. Yeah. If I have a workout partner, I'm typically pretty good at pushing each other kind of thing. But when I'm there, even if I'm by myself, and maybe it's the comfortability of being like, hey, Mahala, I'm about to I'm about to hit something on bench that I'm going to need help with. Come over here. You know what I mean? Like those kind of things that I think I have, like there's an ultimate like comfortability that you have from the staff and the people that are there, or even just somebody next to you that you're like, somebody who's working out there gets it and would know like, no, I'll come help, you know?
Yeah. And first of all, that's the greatest compliment you can give a gym owner, to be honest with you, is, and I agree, like it's definitely when you know, how my testament of it is when you walk in the gym, it's going to take you out of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
Like it's absolutely time to go to work. It's like, it's not a social club.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like shit, I want to squat today.
Right.
Like,
Right. And I'm a guy, like I'm head down focused by myself. I can't train with somebody. I'll ask Mahala or one of the trainers to come over and spot me if I'm peaking, but I'm a head down. I don't want to talk to anybody. Like I don't like, and absolutely. Like it was, I've been a part of other gyms before, and I've been in charge of other gyms before, and I get lost in the business side of it, so I don't even get a good workout in.
Yeah.
But when I get there, I'm like you said, I'm ready to go to work, get focused on the intent and why I'm there. And I really do. And he's like, today was, so Mahala's starting to program with me because I'm getting a little stagnant in my lifts, and I'm old school. I do things. I've been regimented in doing things for a long time, and like Mahala's got me out this different bench routine with Anderson bench and some other things in it that I've been completely uncomfortable with, right? But it's been the best thing for me because I hate it. Yeah. But I love it, right?
Yeah, right?
It's almost like you hate it, but when you get done, you're like, oh, that feels awesome.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I appreciate the compliment because that means the world to me, and that's who we want to be. I mean, we don't want to be a social club, man.
Right.
And, and there's a lot of them, and we want to be a place that you can come in, go to work, get a shower, and then go to your business and take care, so that's who we want to be. And that's our goal. That's our goal to grow.
Different in that regard.
Yeah.
One thing you said that resonated with me. Oh gosh, now it's going to escape my mind. You got me going on working hard.
You're good. You're good.
But it came to me. One thing that you said that resonated with me with making the decision to open the gym and get going in the first place was trying to take QB Impact to be a nationally recognized company, and it clicked for me of the gym, where that is as a huge investment in a business that you have to operate on its own. And I think that's a good mindset. I think a lot of people look at supplementary businesses as, oh, they'll just help, my first thing that I have going on or my main thing or whatever. But I do think that there's potential for you having your own facility to add some credibility to QB Impact. And I'm curious if you've noticed any, like, especially kids from out of state or even in town with you being able to train in your own facility that has been just completely set up by you. Is there any have you noticed any differences on the QB Impact side of things?
Yeah, 1,000%. The credibility is insanely different from a standpoint of, I'll give you an example. You call me, Steve Manella, Coach Steve Manella handles our operations. He does all the new parent calls, right? So you hit me, you send me a DM on Facebook. I refer you to Steve Manella. He calls you, and in the past, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we're training at Carl Albert High School or SNU football stadium. So we'll meet there and we'll talk, we'll do an eval, and then we'll train, right? Well, now it's like, we'll come to our training facility and we'll sit in my office and we'll talk. We'll talk about your son. We'll talk about your family. We'll set goals. We'll tour the gym. We'll tell you how our equipment's going to make your son better from a speed, agility, and strength standpoint before we even talk about his throwing motion, right? And then once you realize that, I want you to understand that while your son's training, we have these trainers and you should take advantage of it, mom and dad, right? So I think what we have done is, what it's done for QB Impact is it's created yes, it's taken it to a whole nother level, but it's also created a home for the kids because you got to understand, right? Like our kids go to different high schools all over the state, right? I have kids I have a family from Kentucky that comes to me once a month, a family from New Mexico that comes to me once a month, a group from Texas, a group from Wichita. So, man, they invest a lot of money to come see me, right?
Absolutely.
And so now I have access 24/7 to a place to train them instead of me calling an AD and saying, let me get you on the field and all that kind of stuff. But it also gives them home. Because when they come to ISP, it makes those kids feel like this is our place. Like I don't like if I'm a rival to Carl Albert High School or Midwest City High School and I'm training there all the time, sure, whatever, once a month, okay. But ISP is where we train. It's our place, right?
Again, you have control of the culture.
And we have control of the culture and the kids, and we have control of the kids and how they act there, right? And so I think it's definitely taken us to another level. But I think they work hand in hand, you know what I mean? But that's where I have to be careful. Like I alluded to you earlier, is I have to be careful with how they work hand in hand because I don't want it to be QB Impact. I want it to be ISP.
Right.
And I think sometimes that's misconstrued, right? And I think people do go, oh, that's QB Impact. No, it's ISP, right? So I think that's for me to find out how to balance that from a marketing and business standpoint, because my QB Impact and Coach George platform is huge. It's ginormous, right? And then ISP is just a growing platform.
Right.
So I try to use this to grow this when sometimes this overstates this. So I just have to, I have to do a better job at balancing that.
I mean, it sounds like you were mindful of it in the first place by naming it something different.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. And I think creates that potential where if it were QB Impact Gym, then
Right.
that would be, I believe, a very difficult thing to overcome.
Sure.
We've dealt with that in the past too, with like supplements and certain things that we've maybe like helped people with or whatever, where somebody maybe is creating a product specifically like a supplement that they want to use specifically for, you know, some kind of sport or something. And you're like, well, you do like Kevin was kind of talking about, you start pigeonholing yourself, you know, if it's like, if you call, you know, said supplement, you know, golfers, you know, pre-workout. Well, anybody who doesn't golf is not going to buy it. You know what I mean? It's like, you got to have these ideas where it's like, you got to make this applicable to everybody. And that is one of the things that I think, again, just to, you know, just keep laying on compliments for you, because I do just think ISP is such a cool gym. But it's like, you walk in there, and anytime I've ever been in there, like, as much as if I walked in there, I could see how it was a football training facility and could be used for that. But I walk in there and I'm like, this is a badass gym.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I would assume if I didn't know.
Right. Which is like, I think an important thing though, too, as you're differentiating those things, where it's very applicable to be that, but it doesn't have to be, where it's like, again, my wife could go work out in there and she'd have a great time.
Right. And I think that's probably me more than anything, because I know what I'm weary of and know to be careful about. So I'll be honest with you. I think most people don't see that. I think it's me just making sure that I'm able to control that. You know what I'm saying?
Being conscious of it, I think, helps you avoid it, though.
Sure.
And probably being ultra conscious of it, because again, you're running two businesses.
Sure.
I got to imagine though that for the clients and the people that you work with primarily on the QB Impact side of things, that there is somewhat of a coolness factor to being able, especially those out of towners, that when they come to town, they get to train at the facility. Because I remember the company that we used to work for, Supplement Superstores, owned by the same guys that own First Form. They, after we left, they built a new headquarters, and it was like state of the art, and had a gym and all cool offices and like all kinds of crazy stuff, and it was all just immaculate in there, like very similar to your gym, like to the nines with everything. And I was like, man, that's really cool, but like, gosh, from like a business owner aspect, like that's so expensive, man. Like that's kind of crazy that they did that. But then I started hearing people talk about like, oh man, like, I got to go to the First Form gym, or like, oh man, did you see this person got to go to the First Form headquarters and check it out? And it was like, oh, okay, that's why they did it.
Yeah.
There is a coolness factor
Yeah.
to that, and I think that is a big reason why they've continued to grow as a company. So
Yeah, and I think it is for us too. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, I think anytime you grow as a business and you're an entrepreneur, to tell somebody to come to my facility so we can meet and talk about your growth, I think is a big deal, right? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think when you said, come to our wholesale warehouse so you can look at our items for distribution, right? For me, that was cool as fuck.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Dude, getting to walk around with you in the warehouse. I
Yeah.
think you're the only person that's ever done that. We walked around. We should get a shopping cart or something.
Dude.
But we walked around, I think, with the little cart back there and just put products on the cart.
I went nuts.
Yeah. You're the only one.
I thought it was Christmas. I went nuts. I think my wife was with me, and she's like, "Ew, but
You're the
no.
only person that's ever shopped at the warehouse. So.
Yeah, I went nuts, man. Because I love it, dude. I mean, in fact, as football season goes on, I'd love to provide you guys for some testimonies, because you have football guys all over the state that are using your products, man. You don't know it,
awesome.
but because they get them from ISP, and because we treasure our partnership, and we let them know that these are the best products, and there's a reason we partner with you guys. Like what I refuse to do is make a financial partnership for financial gain only. I refuse to do it.
Right.
If you come into ISP, what you purchase is what I have done my research on, and I feel like is the best for you, not because it's a cog moneymaker, because I believe it's the best for you. And I think all those parents that train with us, that believe in us, that have complete faith and trust in us, they have the same faith in Define Nutrition, because they know that if we love it, that it's the right thing for them.
Right.
And I just had a 54-year-old lady today come in and say, "Hey, these energy drinks are making me, they make me feel uncomfortable. So we're going to use your mimosa energy, right?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, absolutely. And so, like, when a 55-year-old lady whose energy drinks are making her not feel well comes into ISP because she wants to get the mimosa Define Nutrition, and, I'm like, that's why it's there.
Yeah, right.
Seriously. I mean, really. And that just happened today. So, those things are cool. My guys leave every session with a hydrate.
Awesome.
And to be honest with you, I'm just waiting for you to turn the the blue
Frost.
The Blue Frost. You turn that into packets, buddy. I'm pulling my truck up.
We'll give some insider information. The benefit to everybody that listens to the podcast. They are ordered. Manufacturing takes a long time, especially packets.
Okay.
So it's no joke. We have some products that have taken us 6 months or more.
You don't know anything about that. The gym opened right when you expected it to.
When I was.
Right on.
The city
all the
did-
stuff
yeah.
showed up.
You signed a lease and it was like a week or two.
done.
Yeah, right. Easy peasy.
Well, I tell you this: when those packets come in, let me know, because I'll be here. Because the only reason, they obviously, the watermelon sells like nuts, but they love that Blue Frost. It's just
Blue Frost is so good.
They leave with a packet and a water bottle, and it's almost religious, to the point where parents, they have them at games, and
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool, man.
Well, that's first and foremost. Thank you for the trust in us and
seriously.
Define Nutrition. It's such a cool partnership, and man, I love hearing about the football players using it, and it's definitely a cool moment for me. But you talk about doing it not for the financial gain, and that's how we've always done things ourselves, and that has provided more financial gain for us by always. And it's going to sound cliche, but making the customer the first priority. But when we're doing anything, looking at it from the customer's point of view first, what's best for them. Once we do that, then trying to figure out how we can make sure that we're making some money so we can pay our rent, pay our employees. And when we do that, it's recognized by the customer, and they're more of a regular customer. They come back more often. They spend more money with us because they trust the money that they're spending with us is actually going to be making a difference. So.
Yeah, but I think it's important that you guys hear outside of the day-to-day activity at Triad or even here, the impact it's making on, like, for me to sit here and say my athletes are taking your products, I think is cool, but honestly a little bit expected, right? But when, like, I have a grandfather, his name's Joey Hawk, and he went from just bringing his grandson to training to coming to the gym 3 to 4 times a week, getting a lift in, and then saying, hey, like, I'm struggling with digesting protein. So we put him on the isolate and he's fucking dominating, right?
Yeah.
But to me, like saying athletes are gaining from it, cool. I mean, let's be real. They should, right?
Sure.
But for me, like the story of the lady today and then, and Joey who is taking isolate, like those are people late in their life that are trying to change their life with the right supplements and the right gym. You know what I mean? And for me, that's cool, man.
It's
not
so
just
cool.
becoming a better athlete, but changing their quality of life.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like athletes that want to become better athletes that work hard. Yeah. That's what we do. But when you get people, grandparents that are like, man, I need to change too.
Yeah.
Hey, you know how hard that is?
Oh yeah.
Do you know how hard it is to get me to change? Like, I mean, so for me, those are testimonies that are super cool, and it's a testament to the partnership we have and the products that you've made that we have at our gym, and I just think it's awesome, man.
That's
enjoy
awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I'm always like, one of my proudest times, as silly as it is, but maybe it's not silly, but I always kind of think it is when I walk into my mother-in-law's house and sitting on her counter is like Define creatine, Define energy, and I'm just sitting there and like and Define whatever it is, and it's like she's always got, and I'm like, hell yeah, Mom. Like, way to go. And she kills it too. Tina works out hard, but it's, it is cool because again, like, we talk about this, it is the athletes, the regular gym goers, those kind of people that is almost the expected. And for us, I think we've always really paid a lot of attention to we had somebody on the podcast the other day to kind of emphasize this more of like, you only see like 20% of the market that you fall on their radar, and it's like, how do you find the other 80%? And that's something that we've always really focused on. I feel like since we've even been in business is like, the guy who goes to the gym 5 days a week, 6 days a week is always working out, never misses. Like, that's great. We'd love that. We'd love him taking our supplements. Like, don't get me wrong. But I want the soccer moms that don't realize, my grandma, those kind of people who don't realize the benefit that they could really receive from taking something like this and improving their quality of life. Those are the ones that it's like, we've really spent a lot of time putting the extra effort into at times to make sure that they understand, whether it's sample events or setting up somewhere of just like, hey, let me just expose you to this and let me show you how this can actually make a difference for you. It's not all just like dudes who eat dumbbells on the weekends. Like, this is for everybody. And
I think that's, especially today in today's society, I think health and wellness is really big for that group of people you just alluded to, man. As I think as we change as a society and culture, I think those, I think wives and husbands and business people and grandparents, being active in the gym and even just getting on the treadmill and walking for 30 minutes and doing push-ups, like, and not even just using the weights, just being active. Yeah, man, I think it's a big deal. And I think people are starting to figure out that their activity is good.
Oh yeah.
Like, the body is designed to do that. The body's designed to cure. The body's designed, to keep you healthy if you just take care of the body.
No matter how busy I get, I will always make time for even just a 30-minute workout because I feel better.
Yeah.
Just all around.
My wife sends me to the gym. You know what I mean?
I actually believe that.
Yeah. She'll be like, when was the last time you did jujitsu? I'd be like, I don't know, like a couple days. She's like, they got a class tonight.
She's checking the schedule.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I went ahead and signed you up.
That's cool that it sounds like you've found, especially with working with a lot of athletes, of checking in on the parents and the grandparents. Hey, what are you guys doing? You're bringing them here. Like, you're already traveling to the gym. I'm going to guess some of them even hang out there and wait for their kids. Yep. So say, hey, this would be a perfect time for you to work out too.
Right.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to see it more. And again, not because of memberships or financial gain, but to me, if you're going to watch your son train for 60 to 90 minutes, it's a no-brainer to, at minimum, walk on the treadmill.
Yeah, right.
That's when I'd be
work
working
out.
out.
Yeah,
work out, catch a shower, and you're ready to go.
And that's what I'm saying. And I think the mission, a little bit of that was kind of the mission of why we built ISP, was that so that parents could have a place where they could take care of their bodies while their kids were training.
That's awesome.
And I think I have to do better at that, and do a better job at encouraging parents to do that, because I do think we're not where we should be. I think we have a lot of parents that are still watching their kids train from afar, and for me, I think I need to do a better job at encouraging them to get in a lift or to work out, or even maybe getting to a point where we provide small classes where Mahala even teaches parents how to use the racks. I will say, I think the gym can be a little bit intimidating if you don't understand rack systems and a belt squat, right? Because if you go to, there's nothing wrong with it, by the way, but if you go to a gym that's got cable assisted machines, it's very simple. Sit down and push.
Yeah.
So
look at the instructions.
Exactly.
Scan the QR code.
Right. So, to be able to get into a rack and do a complete workout at a rack, which the three of us can do and Mahala can do, but a lot of people are intimidated by that, I think.
Absolutely.
So that's another area that I think we could get better at with new members is, hey, like let us talk you through the rack system, right? And tell you how safe it is and how efficient it is. So, those are some areas I think down the road we're going to get better at. Yeah,
I'm sure that you got my gears turning of like a whole like onboarding program of even just something as simple as like if you're walking on the treadmill, here's if you work with somebody, or we even have a program where you do some small intervals on the treadmill, and then Mahala, next step 2 is
wrestling
Mahala
with Mahala.
Yeah, Mahala just walks you through how to use one of the racks. If you get bored of being on the treadmill, like here's generally how to use this. Go for it.
Right.
So
right. Yeah, no doubt. And I think that's something we could we can grow and get better at doing. Because I do think it's a very masculine gym. And the ladies that do work out there are very advanced. Like if the ladies aren't with the trainer, they're very advanced in fitness. And I don't want to be a place that you just have to be advanced in fitness. I want to be a place where if you've never lifted before, you can come in and learn how to work. You know what I'm saying? So again, I'm conscious of things that we got to get better at. And something I always tell my athletes is, before the head gets too big, make sure you check yourself in the mirror. So I'm conscious, man. I try to check myself and say, look, I can work out. My wife can work out, but can other young ladies and even young men that don't understand?
Just the novices.
Right.
That's a big thing that we do with our employees as well. Is no matter how long you've been in store, just taking customers, which that's everyone we hire on. That's where you start, and that's where the majority of our team works is taking customers. That's the bulk of the work for the company, and obviously a big staple in our overall business model is our customer service and going above and beyond. And customer service is one of those things that it can always improve. So that's something that I always preach is I took customers for a decade, and there would be things where an employee that's hasn't even been working in the store for a year does a little differently, and it's just like, oh, that's actually a really good way of going about it. And I learn from that brand new employee. There's always room for improvement, no matter how long you've been doing it.
Absolutely.
And I think it's something that's. It's at least for within customer service, you can get very comfortable of once you get to a point where you are comfortable taking most situations and answering most questions. It's easy to think, okay, we're where we need to be. There's always room for improvement. So that's a mindset that we keep. Is there's from a business standpoint, customer standpoint, everything. There's always things that we should be improving on. So
yeah, completely. You should always be climbing. Like I firmly believe that. I don't think there's like I don't, for me at least, and it's okay if people are different, but like I don't have a top of the mountain. Like I feel like I'm constantly climbing, and I'm constantly hungry for what's next. But I have to be conscious of balancing what I currently have before I look for what's next, or before I climb. Like if you're not, you're here, well, you want to climb, but have you taken care of business here yet? Right. So, I think that's, I think my wife actually is the one that keeps me grounded on that. Cause I'm constantly looking for the next climb. To the point where she's like, yo, slow down. So
there's got to be some balance there though, of one person that's pushing and one person that's a little bit more conservative.
Complete balance. So, but for me, that's where I'm always at is I don't ever tell myself, hey, I can't wait to get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, right.
The infinite game.
Yeah.
Compared to the like a football game that has it ends at a certain time and the score tells who won or who lost. It's business is very much an infinite game of there's no finish line, there's no clock, there's not really
there's no line of success.
Right. Yeah. Where I know you've asked that question before of is there ever a point where you you'll feel successful and I'm sure a lot of business owners would say no, and I think that's the reason. So
right,
I would definitely agree to that. Is I think success is perspective, right? It's everybody has a different determination of success, and for me is success is when I look back and look at my sons and my daughters and the fathers and wives they've become, and husbands and wives they've become, and at the kids I've trained, and not that they scored 20 touchdowns at OU, but while they were at OU, they got their degree and they treated their professors right. And they got married and acted right. Like for me, which is very weird because I know you're keeping impact. For me, like Friday night, Saturday accolades are really cool, but they mean jack shit to me if you're not doing everything else to take care of business. So yeah, man. So I think we do things a little bit different. I think football is my platform, not my end state. And I think people don't understand that, but I always believe you do the other things and the football will take care of itself.
Right.
Yeah.
And just being good at football doesn't.
Well, it's funny, we draw that to a parallel too with the company a lot of just be good people, treat the customers right, and the money will come.
Yeah.
Let's not worry about the money. Let's worry about treating people right. Let's worry about running a good business. Let's worry about those kind of things. Let's worry about our culture. Let's worry about those. And then and then the money just happens,
Right.
and it's if you do everything right, it's and that's obviously oversimplifying, but it's one of those things where at the end of the day, if you worry about making good people and people who work hard and you discipline and, who are doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, touchdowns will come. Right?
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Wins will come, but
For
at the
sure.
end of the day, it's even if somebody leaves us, we hope they leave us better than when they joined us.
Right, right, and wins are perspective too, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that are rich that win every day that are internally miserable. So I even think wins are perspective, but I agree with you everything you guys said, and your mission which is the same thing, for me. And it's funny because at Camp Impact, I do closing remarks every year, and I had, and I'm not when I speak at events or anything like that. My wife hates it, by the way, but I'm not a note taker. I'm a speak from the heart guy. And if I suck, I suck, but I'm a suck from the heart. Right? so I'm not let me sit and prepare and take. So. And I remember it was the end of Camp Impact, and you got to understand there's 10 or 12 NFL guys behind me, and I go ballistic on young people that thinking professional athletes are their hero, and I go ballistic, and I'm like, if you're a police officer, fireman, nurse, military, stand up, and parents stand up. I'm like, those are your fucking heroes.
Right.
Stop fucking praising NFL guys. They're not your heroes. If you got to pay a ticket to go see them, they are not your hero. Like, and all my boys behind me are like, damn, dog, can you get a heads up? You know, but you know, I think that's society as a whole, though, is, you know, the guy with the cool car and all the money is the guy I want to be. And sometimes it's
well,
not.
that's the same. Like we were talking about before, like somebody's hero was that guy who was just leaving the state to come drink in his hometown on a Friday night to be the coolest guy in town. And it's like, that's no one's hero.
No,
that's no one's hero.
All,
it shouldn't be.
Yeah. I do think we're creeping up on 2 hours.
We are,
I'm sorry.
No, we're doing great. It's crazy how fast it goes by.
I'm sorry to stop it, but man, you're touching on a note that sounds like a good capping point, and just to kind of tie that off a little bit, it's the way you talk about the people that you work with, the guys that you work with. It's extremely apparent without even saying it that you look at it as you get to work with some guys as they transition into manhood. That football is just one aspect of that. That even the gym is just one aspect of their life. That you're more worried that they're able to like even your boys. You talk about, you know, football being more of a means to an end of getting your college degree. And, you know, if you're not doing that, there's other routes.
Sure.
But I think the way that you look at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is football's just provided you an opportunity to be able to help boys figure out how to be men.
Yeah. It's given me the platform and access to definitely, help mold boys into men and be a resource for those parents. And, you know, kind of people think it's a cliche, but when people ask me how my day is, I always say I'm good, right? And I am, because like I've deployed to Iraq and I've seen bad, and what we think is bad on a daily basis is never bad, right? It's what in today's society we deem as bad, and we make it bad, and we create our own drama, when at the end of the day it's not fucking bad, not compared to the rest of the world. And I try to live that way, and I try to be the optimistic guy in the room. But at the end of the day, it's in today's society, it's molding these young boys to be men and creating an environment for them in society. And I think that's our goal. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, man, just to kind of pay you some compliments too, for me personally, like I know you and I, this is kind of one of our first times really getting to kind of like hang out, but you know, I think I'm a big believer, and I know Kevin is too, of like, you know, you are who you surround yourself with. And, you know, I love everybody up there, like Mahala, Brock, Bobby, everybody, like everybody's so awesome. And so that's always like, even though I haven't, you know, had the pleasure until tonight to really like sit down and talk to you at length, but it's like, you know, seeing all of them and how highly they think of you, it's like, man, it tells a lot of like who you are as a person, who you are as a man, and like who you are as a leader. And it's super cool to be able to sit here and talk to you, man, because everybody that you seem to surround yourself with, and that, you know, obviously QB Impact, all that kind of stuff is great. And I don't know people on that side as much as I do as like the gym side, but your ability to surround yourself with really amazing people is a big testament to who you are. And so we just appreciate you being here and talking with us.
And how long they stick around too.
Yeah. I mean, the you know, guys who'd fight to the end for you. And that's really, really awesome.
Yeah. And I appreciate you guys having me. Honestly, it's very, I know I say it a lot, but it truly is, man. Like I am super humbled that you guys had me on the show, and that we got to sit here and enjoy a bourbon, a whiskey.
That Blue Note was
pretty good.
It was really good, actually. It was really good. If I got into the third or fourth glass, it would have been a problem. But we're good.
We won't be causing any problems here. So
appreciate you guys tremendously, man, and always. My home is your home, and anything we can do for you, we're here.
Amazing, brother. Man. Yeah. And we appreciate, you know, obviously our personal relationship, the business relationship, everything, man. It's just, it's been really great. It's been really awesome. I was, you know, one of the first things when I went to ISP the first time was like, I took a picture of the Define display because it just looks good. You know what I mean? Like it seems like, again, it's the attention to detail of all this stuff where it's like, man, it's one of those moments that I personally felt really proud, like looking at it, because it's just like somebody's, you know, really took the time to make this look nice and be something that's something that obviously we're proud of it and we love it. And, it's something that we put so much heart into, and it's like, and we can tell when people appreciate it. And man, everything's just been great. So it's been awesome.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys, man.
Tom, I know you guys are early risers, so thank you so much for staying late with us on Labor Day as well.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for the conversation. This was genuinely a lot of fun. And for all of our viewers, if you've got kids that are looking at playing football or playing football, and you think they could be better than they are right now, definitely check out QB Impact. It sounds like you have provided something that Oklahoma and kids across the country genuinely really needed. Like, it sounds like there was a need for what you started. And if
go check out the gym too.
And definitely go check out the gym. It's just off of 77, and is it close to Wilshire?
It is close to Wilshire. The address is 249 Northwest 71st Street.
Yeah.
Yep.
Super easy to get to because just right off the highway. Again, immaculate facility, great for anybody. At least go check it out.
Yeah, please, we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
What
episode this was?
52.
52.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's Nick George's college football number.
Is it? There we go. Well,
I love it.
That's awesome.
Appreciate you
episode
guys.
52. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.